All right, you're here with BS with Joe. Joe is there. I'm BS. I'm Brad Scott. So today's episode, what are we talking about, Joe?
I wanted to talk a little bit about Puerto Rico and why they are not a state.
Right. Puerto Rico is not a state because they're corrupt.
That's part of it.
That's part of it. Also, it's there's people of Puerto Rico, I believe a lot of them want it to be a state and a lot of them don't want it to be a state. They want to keep their independence.
Puerto Rico has voted to become a state multiple times.
Yes.
Most recently, just a couple of years ago.
Yes.
The United States government has said, no, you're not ready because you have an economic deficit that is just ridiculous.
Right, and they also have a lot of production too. They have Bacardi that comes from Puerto Rico, and other things. They actually could be a GDP powerhouse.
They could be. They need to get their act together. And that's
Right.
basically what Congress has told them.
And they also have great tourism and other things.
And okay, so Puerto Rico does not have any representation in the U.S. government,
No.
but they do have representatives there that can't vote.
Yes. I'm not exactly sure how that works out.
Yeah, I don't know either. I didn't understand that one.
Yeah, it's so we have these representatives.
They also don't pay any federal tax.
No, but they also get Medicare and Medicaid because they are citizens.
Right.
For anyone out there who are
So
not from Florida,
they're getting the benefits without paying the taxes.
absolutely.
Why would they want to be a state?
I wouldn't want to be a state if I get benefits like that.
But then there's also the cultural identity. The Puerto Ricans are a very, very proud people.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people in Puerto Rico, or even Puerto Ricans that are living elsewhere, don't want it to become a state because they feel like they would lose some of their cultural identity.
And they probably would, because there, you would have a lot more people moving there because they'd get the same benefits that they'd get in most of the U.S. It's like moving from one state to another.
Well, you could move there right now.
You could, and it's a U.S. territory. Yeah, they accept our currency and everything else.
Yeah.
They also have to follow the constitutional laws. They can't violate our constitutional rights. Now, but also that goes to what I want to kind of talk a little bit about and tell Joe about this. But you look at the states. All the states are different, and states' rights, I believe, is amazing because different laws are in different states. Like, you can't make a right-hand turn in the state of New Jersey on a red light.
There's a reason there's a 10th Amendment.
Yeah. Now, what some of your globalists will want you to do is they want it to all be the same.
Well, yeah, that's what globalism is.
Right. And
They don't want just the United States to all be the same. They want the United States to be the same as Canada, the same as the UK, the same as Germany.
yep. And they all want to have and NATO is a great source for that globalism. And that's why I'm against NATO. NATO is great to have back in World War II when we were trying to fight communism and all this other stuff.
Now, after World War I, the League of Nations was started.
The League of Nations did start, yes.
Yes. It was not. If the League of Nations was toothless, they really didn't. It didn't succeed.
Didn't succeed. There was a lot of, like, around World War One, there was a lot of stuff going on, even before World War One. You had the Spanish Revolution.
Right.
You had a bunch of little skirmishes and battles and wars. Even in China, they had the Boxer Revolution.
Right.
Um,
And then it was shortly after the Geneva Convention that the United Nations formed, correct?
correct.
Was the Geneva Convention part of that?
The Geneva Convention was, I believe, kind of part of that. So, what it is the Geneva Convention, the leaders of that, wound up becoming the leaders of NATO.
The main five.
The main five.
Okay.
And they wanted to create NATO. Because they started seeing, because the Geneva Convention was just about ending World War II and who owes what, where these lines are drawn, and the ending of World War II.
Well, there's a little bit more to it. I mean,
Oh yeah, the crimes, crimes against humanity with all the
crimes against humanity, and also going forward, how prisoners of war will be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a lot of good that came out of the Geneva Convention.
Mm-hmm.
Germany got screwed.
Oh yeah. Well,
it took them a long time to recover. Their economy took a long time to recover after that.
Oh yeah. Well, and also World War One, they did a lot of stuff like that.
The end result of World War One is a lot to do with why there was a World War Two.
Absolutely, it's because they put so much economic pressure on Germany.
Yeah.
Then that's
they had
what
no choice.
They had no choice, and they weren't even supposed to have any weapons.
I'm not defending what Germany did at all.
No, neither am I. But this is what I'm talking about is the lead up to World War II. This is before they started doing the stuff with the Jewish
back when there was a
individuals. Kaiser. Back when there was a Kaiser. Because World War One, they took out the Kaiser in an assassination. Now that isn't what started World War One, but it was one of the leading factors of World War One. Also, the Spanish Revolution was a part of it.
Franz Ferdinand was from Belgium?
Austria,
that's right.
Yeah, he was from Austria.
He was an archduke.
Archduke.
Yes.
And that's World War One. I honestly believe was the last nail in.
Well, there was a movie that it was like a time travel movie where they went back and basically witnessed the first assassination attempt with Franz Ferdinand, and then when that same guy that tried to kill him with the bomb was sitting in sitting outside a cafe and saw the car go by, and then went and shot him. That's exactly how it happened.
That's exactly how it happened.
I remember that movie came out, and I was like, "They did it right."
Yeah, what movie you're referring to is The Kingsman.
Yes.
Yes. But yes, that is how it happened. Now, there was a lot of small countries in Europe at that time, and the lines had redrawn after World War One, and some of the countries don't exist that formally existed before then. But the end of World War One, I think, was truly the end of your aristocrats. You know, these royal individuals. You look at the Tsar of Russia; he was annexed, and then he was killed. And you look in history. What did they do before that revolution? Was the American Revolution and the French Revolution.
Well, it was shortly after World War One that the British monarchy lost its teeth.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why they lost their teeth is you look at the Archduke, you look at the Tsar, you look at the U.S. thriving without any kind of monarchy. And in order to preserve the monarchy, I believe they had to create a parliament.
Yeah.
And I think they had a parliament system before then, but I think the
what was that? The Magna Carta.
Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% remembering all of that stuff.
Sorry.
Anyone from Britain or anybody from these areas could know more about?
The Magna Carta was the first step in taking the power away from the monarchy and giving it to the representatives of the people.
Yes.
Yes.
And
that happened a long time ago.
Oh yeah. But that, I think, was the biggest thing that helped them preserve the monarchy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's their culture.
It's their culture.
Yeah, you gotta love them.
Yeah.
That's at this point, it's more of a drain on society, I think. But they do a lot of philanthropic stuff. You know, they really do a lot. They spend a lot of money on charities. Yes, the royal family is wealthy, but they don't take a salary. They don't take anything from the government.
No. Where they get their money is, so when from what I understand from somebody I did speak to that was from England, when you go to purchase things in stores, they'll have a royal seal on certain items.
Right.
That means when you purchase that item, the taxes that you pay for that item go to the royal family.
Right.
So, That's how they have their money. That, and they probably invest properly.
Well, that and a lot of the stuff, like the paintings and the sculptures and all that stuff that are in the palaces, have all been gifted to the state. They don't belong to the royal family.
No, they don't. But
this globalist agenda is the same thing that they were talking about back in the 1980s that they called the New World Order.
New World Order, yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. And here's the thing, is like also with Russia, just a small tidbit on that, and you guys are going to see how I don't like Bill Clinton that much. Putin asked Bill Clinton if he could join NATO.
Right.
And if Putin would have joined NATO back in the 90s, there would be no war in Ukraine.
Yeah, there wouldn't.
There wouldn't. He told him no. I don't know why he told him no, but it was his prerogative to tell him no.
Well, I think yes, Bill Clinton was the one that actually said no, but I think it was a discussion between the members of NATO.
It was because NATO has to vote on it to allow them into NATO. Right. But the U.S., because we are the largest contributor to NATO financially and everything else, we have the largest say-so.
Right.
Because we could say, you're going to accept Putin into NATO, and if you don't, we're going to pull out.
Yeah. Now, this New World Order / globalist agenda, who's pushing it? Is it the United Nations? Is it the Illuminati?
Well, see, and that's the thing.
I'm not looking to get into conspiracy theories, but this is a real thing that is being pushed. Mm-hmm. Who's behind it?
Well, the thing is,
we don't know.
They don't want to be known. I wouldn't want to be known for causing.
Is it Bill Gates?
It could be Klaus Schwab. It could be George Soros. It could be many different individuals. The thing is, they're wanting to have this so they can.
It's all about control.
It's all about control. It's about having that authoritarian control over people.
Right.
And one of the big things about NATO, if you look at NATO, in order to become a NATO member, I believe in their charter, there's a lot of things in their charter that since we founded NATO, if we were to try to get into NATO now, our Constitution wouldn't allow us to go into NATO. Because
our Constitution shouldn't have allowed it then.
They shouldn't have allowed it then.
Right.
But the thing is, NATO has...
the United Nations. The United Nations pulls crap that all the time violates our Constitution.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. In order to become a NATO member, you have a constitution like the United States, you can't become a member.
Right.
So why are we being able to tell all these other countries follow these rules or else, even though we don't have to follow those rules?
Well, there are things that we are doing that do violate our Constitution. Like, for example, when I sent you that link talking about the United Nations spending U.S. tax dollars.
Oh, yeah. On illegal immigrants coming to the United States.
Right.
And that's not just the United States. So, like, Germany, they're investing in their own invasion in their country. And that's partially why they're having a lot of issues in Germany right now.
Yeah.
They're facing an economic collapse. I think all these major... NATO countries are facing a lot of collapsing issues, and a lot of it, I believe, is the war in Ukraine.
So we circle back to that again.
I know. We don't want to talk about it, but we're talking about it. It's like when you don't want to talk about something, it always winds up getting talked about.
Well, I mean, there's so many things going on in the world right now, and that's one of the major issues is the Russia-Ukraine war. There's also Israel and Hamas, and Iran sticking their nose into that. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens. Yeah. That's all I can say.
But what I want to talk about with that New World Order, and the reason why I'm wanting to talk about Ukraine, is NATO is a defensive force. They're authoritarian force. They go in areas where, let's say, I don't know if they're there, but they should be there. In like countries like Haiti, but Haiti I don't think is a NATO member.
No, the United Nations is the one that's all over Haiti.
Oh yeah, United Nations.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're sending their peace force.
So NATO is involved. The blue helmets, they call them.
That's the United Nations.
United Nations. They're going in there and they're making peace, but the people may not want that peace because they threw out their leadership. Why did they throw out their leadership? Well, maybe because they were facing economic collapse because of the governmental spending.
Look at Mozambique.
Yeah,
that was a UN peacekeeping force. The Black Hawk Down was.
Mm-hmm.
That was all
Somalia. Yep. There's many things we could go and talk about with this, but and who knows how those countries got destabilized, but it does. Once the country's destabilized, UN goes in there and they put their authoritarian boot down.
So since we're talking about Ukraine anyway, let's say, all right, so Russia wanted to be part of NATO at one time. We told them no. And then NATO kept encroaching, and taking over territories. And Poland joins NATO. And, we even were talking about Georgia joining NATO right before Russia invaded Georgia. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's any foreshadowing there.
Right. That's
what I'm getting to is Russia doesn't want NATO knocking on their door, and that's one of the main reasons why they invaded Ukraine. Yes, not just yes, there's economic reasons too, but mainly if you have somebody that's going to put their military, let's say that Russia started putting missiles and military in Mexico, we'd have a problem with that.
We absolutely would.
Yeah. So Russia doesn't want NATO in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. What if President Trump, in part of his negotiations, tells Russia, we're not going to allow Ukraine to join NATO for 20 years?
So that may contribute to that. There's a lot of things you could talk about with their negotiation practices. I know one of the things that the U.S. is pushing for is once there's a line drawn, is having the populace in Ukraine vote on whether or not they want to be a part of Russia or part of Ukraine.
Well, it can't be a referendum at gunpoint like they did in Crimea and the Donbass.
Right. And, who knows if how that's going to be contributed or how that happens. And NATO will probably...
the United Nations would have to do that. And another thing with the United Nations, how we were talking about the blue helmets and going this and doing that,
there's a certain form of economic gain from battle and war because there's a lot of spending into defense and all this, especially here in the U.S. And that's why I don't like NATO, because you have it, you're going to go to war, or that you're going to battle, you're going to this, you're going to that. There's peaceful they create peace using violence.
Right.
In some areas I could see that, especially in like Haiti right now. But in a lot of the areas they go to. But it's one of those kind of things. It's they're like we were saying about their, we wouldn't be allowed in NATO because of our Constitution if we weren't one of the founding members.
Right. Well, at least NATO is not a criminal organization like the International Criminal Court.
Well, it depends on because they could go into a country and say, you're not following our NATO rules, so we're going to go in and we're going to enforce it.
Yeah.
They could technically do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of instability, I guess, in Europe, because I think I saw somewhere where there was a riot or something going somewhere in Europe. I don't remember where. I'll have to get back to you guys on that.
What day of the week is it?
That happened on Thursday.
No, I mean, just there's riots.
All over.
Yeah. I mean, there was just riots in pro-Palestinian riots in Canada.
Canada.
And
That's right.
Trudeau was at a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not allowed to go to a Taylor Swift concert. The guy is, I think he's pretty light on the loafers to begin with. But the media made a big deal about the fact that he was at a Taylor Swift concert while there were people dying in the streets.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, there's a lot of movement with the Overton window and other things like that. And NATO is, could be libertarian, could be authoritarian. And there's a lot of spending with like relief programs, and there's a lot of spending. I don't see them cutting back spending anywhere in NATO. They sure do like our American tax dollars.
Well, that's part of the problem with NATO is it's costing the United States a lot of money, and the United Nations as well. I mean, I sent you a link talking about how much the United States, was it $2.3 billion a year?
Yes.
That we give to United Nations, and they say we still owe them a $1.1 billion deficit.
And we contribute more money to NATO than any other country.
Right.
So how is it that we're at a deficit when we could defend ourselves and they can't defend themselves?
Right.
Because you think about it, America's the 911 force.
We even let them camp out in New York.
Yeah.
Who wants to join Canada?
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other episode right there. So is there any more you want to talk about with that?
I think we've beaten this horse pretty dead.
Yeah.
So, subscribe. Please leave us comments. Tell us whether you like things that we're talking about, whether we're out to lunch.
Mm-hmm. And share.
And share. Give us some ideas of things that you might like us to research and look into and have a discussion about.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like Hard AF. That's another channel I like to watch. Don't be a hoe. Share the show. That always gets a laugh.
Yeah.
All right.